Hi everyone, I am so excited to be showing you this beautiful deck that thankfully for me was much too big for Jen's, aka bow and arrows, small hands, and pips in which she does not like. Definitely to my benefit. This will probably be actually one of my shorter walkthroughs because this is in a completely different language. The box, the guidebook, everything, and so and it is a pip deck, so this is going to be quite short, right? We have it coming in a absolutely beautiful box. It looks like it's by maybe Vega as perhaps the publisher. It is the Tarot Noir, which popular medieval images. I'm not sure because I don't speak. I'm guessing Italian or French that this is in. And it has a beautiful shiny black book with massive gorgeous depictions of the artwork. I don't like glossy books. It hurts my head. I'm not going to read this, so it doesn't really matter. But look at the big colored images of the cards are stunning, and even through it has the court cards, and then it even has the gorgeous, look at those gorgeous pip cards. So again, this would hurt my brain to read very much because of the high gloss. I'm not going to read it anyways because it's in another language, but it is certainly beautifully done. It's got real matte. I wish they would have kept the matte on the inside, but it is really gorgeous. But that's all I can say about it because it's another language, but it's beautiful. And then here we have the very oft spoken of giant cards of the Tarot Noir. Now, this is big. I have what I would say is large hands for a woman. And I'm not saying I have like disproportionately for my body, like it all looks proportion. But I think for a woman, my hands are pretty, I have long fingers, and this is a big deck. It is I think my Margaret Peterson's probably my largest of my tarot decks, and it's the same height, but this is actually even wider. It's bigger than a Blue Angel Oracle deck. This is the Pagan Otherworlds, which you can see is shorter and thinner by far. It is a big deck. This would be, I guess, Darkness and Light, or Darkness of Light is pretty standard for a tarot deck, and you can see it significantly larger. So this is a biggin, as they would say. One of the things, as I've kind of just skimmed through this, is one of the things that I was messaging to Jen is that this really has sort of a feeling of deviant moon, in that there is just something left of center. I always do that and say can go right. So there's just something just left of center, almost like a smidge of that deviant moon type energy, which there are medieval decks, older decks that do look like that. Some of our historical decks are like, whoa, what were our historical tarot artists smoking when they did this, right? And it has this little bit left of center, that but not so far left as the deviant moon is, and doesn't work for me. This is quirky but really stunning and works really well. You can see that it is gold gilded, and you can see obviously that the backs have the kind of gold relief on it. It's really beautiful. It's just huge. Like it's really hard. Even I haven't tried to shuffle it yet because it's in order, but this is going to be a wingdinger to shuffle no matter how you cut it. So let's take a cardstock wise, it's glossy for sure. So you can see it's quite glossy there. Obviously not my favorite, but it's still beautiful. So it's as beautiful as people have said it is. I will grant that. So let's just get to it because we don't have anything to ramble about the guidebook. We've talked about how huge it is. So here we have the Fool who is off on his journey. He's not on a precipice as we often see fools, but we have the dogs. It has a very, one of those kind of strange aspects of, like, say, medieval paintings where things are flattened. So you see like both of his eyes kind of flattened on the top, and you see that in a lot of these. But he's kind of following along. He's got his bag full of goodies. There seems to be something on the end of his stick. I'll have to look back and see if we can see better. It looks almost like a little devil's head or something, but I'm not sure. But he's got his bag of things. Very traditional Fool off on his journey. Got a very sweet innocence to his face. Actually, a lot of them have a very sweet innocence to the faces here. Here we have, again, a very traditional, historical, kind of almost a street magician style for the batelier or the magician. I love the jowls of the Pappas here. I'm pretty sure when I get older I'm going to have jowls. My grandfather, well, my great-grandfather was who he was. He had the cutest little face and Irish jowls. I love the flow of color, and see the flow of the land here, and the way this is the art, the way this is illustrated, and even just the flow of the texture of the clothing and the texture of the land. And look at the texture of all of this fabric here. It's really beautiful, and lends to what are, you know, to the images. It lends even a sense of movement to very static images, as the historical images often were quite static, but this lends a beautiful movement and flow to something very static, is what I'm trying to say. Here we have the Empress, which is again quite traditional. This is based on Marseille style. She's got the shield, she's got her scepter. She is the female counterpart to the Emperor. She is that sort of feminine rulership. Very traditional Emperor looking to the left to his Empress here. Has the shield, has the scepter. They have matching shields and scepters. Again, see how the land is behind it though? He's on a throne, but he's still outdoors in the land. I like that in an Emperor. This Hierophant makes me laugh because Jen had put a picture up of this and said she never noticed, but there were sheeples. She called them sheeples, and now how can you ever see that? But think about that. When you blindly follow religion, right? Because there's different ways you can go at the Hierophant or the Pope here. If you blindly follow tradition, like you're just behaving like a sheep, you're not using your own minds. So I love that idea of, it's good to have structure and tradition. It's good to pass on down learning and knowledge, but don't be a sheep, right? That is awesome. Here is a very strange angel head with wings for the lovers. Again, quite traditional. We have Hercules or somebody in the middle here needing to make a decision about a very large, giant, beautiful woman or a shorter woman here. And then we have the flow. It's just slightly odd, and the eyes are slightly too large, and it creates this really magical off-centeredness that I quite like, actually. Again, these to me look very, I don't mean to, you know, compare this to Deviant Moon, but that's like what it feels like. Is like a slightly to that alienness of the Deviant Moon, but not so far over. So I quite enjoy that because these just look a little bit strange. I love the chariot. It's a huge chariot too. How are those horses? They're just looking at each other like, what? Like, I'm not going to be able to pull that. But you have the traditional star. It's very traditional. You've got the faces on the shoulders. I just love it. Look at Justice. I think she's beautiful with her scales and her sword. All the flowing, very muted tone colors, but at the same time very colorful. Look at the Hermit. Look at the Hermit. Look at that light shining out. I just love it so much. gorgeous. I'm massively in love with the fabric in this deck. Now see, tell me, how can you see this and not think a little Deviant Moonish? And again, I'm not saying there's ripping it off at all. I just quite like the quirkiness. And again, you see that in historical decks. I think that we mistake the staidness of older historical artwork because they are often quite interesting, much like this. Beautiful force, although I'm glad she doesn't actually have his other jaw. I'm not very fond of the traditional where they're yanking apart the jaw of a lion, but it's still quite beautiful. Again, the fabric, the hair, just the texture is beautiful. Look at his face. And then it almost looked like a photograph face hanging on a little body. It's so interesting. So interesting. I do like it. And here we have the Death card, which is awesome. I mean, look at that strange alien skull. This is a very typical historical deck where the Grim Reaper is reaping hands. Sometimes heads are just sitting on the ground. And so it's quite typical. But what's interesting about this Death card is when we get to the Devil card, which we'll get into in just a second. Very typical Temperance with the kind of weaving. I like that the red and blue, which we often see fire and water in Temperance, is in her skirts. She looks a little sad and a little dazed. Some of the faces do look a little dazed in this, but it's just beautiful. So here we have the wonderful fat-bellied devil. I quite love devil cards in historical decks. They're sometimes just crazy with giant faces and double rows of teeth and all kinds of craziness going on in the historical deck devil cards. But what I like is look at those same little skulls like from the death. So what does that say? That the devil has death angels on a leash. I don't know what that says, but it's pretty cool. Oh. Here we have the Tower card. I love the really dramatic and beautiful lightning strike there. Of course, people falling out of the towers. As per typical, we've got the Yods falling down. Yeah, really, really cool. Very traditional. Beautiful star card. I love the moon at her forehead. I love the flowers. I love the bird, and of course the star. I love, again, this stylized water. It's just beautiful. She's really, really gorgeous. Yeah, this is beautiful. And her face is very serene. Some of them look a little dazed. You know, if you compare her face to... look. This is what I love about medieval style decks, because sometimes you think, oh my, like, what is she so dazed about? Did she just see a zombie? Like, did, you know, maybe this crazy devil just come traipsing into view? If we kind of, you know, have the... Oh no, I can't find the devil. Where'd he go? The devil is hiding on me. Oh, it's probably in my hand. It's like she saw, whoa, it's a zombie devil over here. And then look at her face. Like, you can just kind of see that look. Again, I love it. Love that kind of sub-story going on there. But where she looks very beautiful and very serene over here in the star card. I really like this. Very traditional. Again, see how you see they have the heads are kind of flattened so you see both their eyes. Very typical of medieval art, I feel. And then you have, I love, again, the stylized water, the texture of the ground. It's just really gorgeous. It's really gorgeous. Very much more beautiful, I think, in person than I thought it was. There's a lot more color to it than I realized. Here we have the sun, strong man on a horse. Bam. Yes, there's a face, but that's okay because there's a strong man on a horse. Stylized earth. Love it. I love everything about it. A little bit alien horse. Got it. And then here we have the typical Judgment, rising up. There's always grayish blue people in Judgment cards. I'm not sure why. I guess those have been, this one's been dead longer than the other ones. Sometimes they look quite like they've been dead a while. And then we have the angel calling them up to new life. So quite typical and beautiful. And really a lovely, again, really beautiful face here. Gorgeous depictions of the creatures that we see in the four corners of the world card. Again, very traditional and gorgeous. And that brings us to the minors, which are pip cards. I have to say, when there's just a few of them, they shuffle really nice overhand. I'm sure that's not going to be the same with the whole deck. So here we have the Ace of Wands, the beautiful, look how gorgeous they are. I know a lot of people don't like pip decks. You know I love them, and these are particularly beautiful with the floral accents. 3, a growth. 4, stunning. 5, gorgeous. 6, look at it, it's beautiful. 7, you can start to see that intertwining build. 8, solidifies. It looks strong. Can you see that? Where the 7 is kind of growing in things. And still, this looks just very solid, doesn't it? The 9, the 10, that's really woven there. And then we come to the valets or the pages with their giant, I love historical decks with the giant wands where they're going to beat somebody over the head with them. They look like clubs. Page, the knight, I love the horse with this, again, alien, but look at that beautiful blanket over the top and flow of fabric. The queen, looking a little sad there with her giant club. And the king with his hand and saying, no, but I'm the real ruler, even though she looks more rulery than him. Love it. Pentacles is where it's at for me in pip decks. So here we have the ace. Absolutely stunning, stunning. 2 of Pentacles. 3 shows the growth. 4, I love the shield. 5, 6, 7, just how I like it. 4 plus 3. 8, 9, just beautiful. 10, 5 on 5. And here we have the beautiful valet, the cavalier, the queen, very high hair. You get this in medieval decks. They must have shaved their foreheads in the medieval times. And the king looking very thoughtful. Looking, I like him. I quite like the king in this one. Very dynamic Ace of Swords. Beautiful. 2. I do also like that the batons or wands are straight and the swords are curved. That makes it very easy to scan and see what it is that you have. The 3, gorgeous. 4, extra gorgeous. Look at the sword suit. Look at that sword suit. See, that's why you can't say a non-illustrated pips. That's beautifully illustrated. Beautifully illustrated. Stunning. I think this is probably my favorite sword suit in a pip deck. The swords are absolutely gorgeous. Look at that. 8, 9, and 10. Absolutely beautiful sword suit. And then we have the valet of swords. I love the armor on the knight. The beautiful draping fabric queen of swords and the king of swords. Look at that cup. That's gorgeous. Yes, I keep pausing to take pictures. It's beautiful. Look at with the roots, the 2 of Cups. Growth with the 3 of Cups. 4, stability. 5, disrupts the stability. 6, 7, 8, 9, and 10. Oh, beautiful. I love the single rose coming out there. Here we have the valet, the beautiful knight. I love the Knights of Cups because it's very much the kind of Holy Grail knight off to kind of save the world. Beautiful Queen of Cups and the King of Cups. I like the hats that the medieval decks showed. So there we have it. Let me scroll out. Okay, so there we have it. Again, probably fastest one ever because, you know, it's a pip deck and it's in another language guidebook. I have to say, you know, let me try. Oh, see, whoa, Kelly, I didn't even put these in with it. Let's try to do this. Can kind of do a side shuffle. This is a trick. So now I sometimes see people do it in the corners. I don't do that so well unless it's a little bit bendable, and this is not a little bit bendable. I think this is not a deck in which you know, draw 10 cards out of. So you could do just a swoop and then kind of do your whole kind of whoa feeling for that zing, because then it doesn't matter how shuffled it is, right? Because you're drawing off of sort of your instinctual hit. My daughter's very good at this kind of picking. And you know, over here and pull that way, because I'm pretty, for me anyways, I don't anticipate drawing more than 3 or 4 cards because they're huge. Now you could do a also the way that I do threes, you know, do a little bit of shuffle, and then when I do 3 cards, I take the one here, the one here, and the one here. And there you go, look at that. Now you could definitely do a 3 card here, and then do a do and a don't. Like that, and that would be really gorgeous. Actually, this might become my go-to deck for that. I love that style of reading. Let me do a sample one here. Okay, I've given it a good shuffle because yeah, this is and I know somebody's gonna say, well, you could trim it, right? Because you've got all these, you know, this border here. This is not a deck, in my opinion, to be trimmed. You just have to suffer through it because it just is meant to be big and gorgeous. That's my personal opinion. So just a general, what do I need to know? Okay, so I'm gonna do 1, 2, boy, sun and the moon, and this has been shuffled quite well. I stopped to give it a really good shuffle as I do. So we have the sun, the moon, and the 6 of Wands. Very interesting, right? Working from the seat of your own confidence is what brings about that happiness, and diving deep, right? Bringing about that success, going into that internal realm, trusting the intuition. That's really powerful there. A do card is the 10 of Swords. Let go of some things that need to be let go of, and so that you can move on to the next phase with the 10 of Swords, if you read it that way. The other way for me is that kind of full fruition. So if we're saying do, it's like let this full experience of this mental phase come into fruition there. And then don't do being the 6 of Swords, which is again a moving away into a better space. So I think I would read this a little, there's a completion. So there's a way of thinking that time has ended and it's time to move forward into a new space. So yeah, I think that this is gorgeous. And this is a style of reading, a spread that I think is from Camellia Elias, who has amazing work on reading with Marseille decks. And it's a reading that I love to do with pip decks. I mean, you can do it with any deck, but I really like to do it with Marseille style decks. I think this may be the go-to deck for that reading. So this has been a look at the absolutely gorgeous Tarot Noir. Yes, it's big. Yes, it's quirky. Yes, it's really absolutely gorgeous. So there you have it. I hope that you've enjoyed it, and be prepared for straining of the finger muscles unless you're a guy with really big hands. But it's, I think, well worth it. So thank you for watching.